of adventure as you join us on this daring journey through the untamed wilderness of Let's Find Out with Diego. Bonus Overdrive Wednesday.
It's time to find out with Diego. Let's go. Ooh, yeah.
On this episode of Bonus Overdrive Wednesday, our guest has a remarkable journey in the realm of storytelling, showcasing his passion for the fantastical worlds of Transformers, Masters of the Universe, G.I. Joe, and the Thundercats during his middle school days. Over time, his focus shifted towards crafting chilling horror stories, a genre he holds dear to his heart. He also establishes dynamic collaborations with esteemed filmmakers and has been known to act from time to time. All this plus more. Please welcome a great friend to our show, author of the book Carnivorous, Todd Martin. Todd, my friend, welcome to Bonus Overdrive Wednesday. I'm happy to have you on, man.
Thanks so much. I'm glad to be on, guys. How are you doing tonight, man?
I'm doing great. It's been interesting weather here in West Virginia and Virginia DC line. It's like a few days ago it was 33 degrees and then today is 80. So, everybody's going to get sick and have issues.
That's the way it is here in Kentucky. It's been like that. When was it? Tuesday, it was like really hot outside, and then it got cold for a couple of days, and it's like in the 80s right now. I think it was 83 a little bit ago. So I think we're having the same kind of weather. So we don't have pneumonia.
We're going to get this heat wave. People be complaining about how hot it is before. It's so cold. Now it's going to be too hot. Nobody's ever happy.
I'm ready for summer, man. I'm tired of the cold weather.
You and I both, but we're going to talk about stuff to make us all happy. We're going to talk about horror. We're going to talk about sci-fi. And, as I was reading the introduction, in my mind, I hear the sounds of Filmation. You remember that little xylophone thing? And, it was going to be some badass stuff coming on?
Good times were coming because He-Man was coming on. Yeah.
He-Man and Thundercats also by Filmation, I believe.
I think so. I remember getting home from school, and I would get home just in time, and they would show it on our Fox affiliate, WDRB 41. They would show it at like 4 o'clock, He-Man and the Masters of the Universe, and I would get out the bus and kind of run into the house, we lived in a trailer actually, so I could watch it. So that was like kind of the highlight of my day back then, so I know exactly what you're talking about.
Absolutely the highlight, because when it came to that, so I think there was, at least on this side, they had He-Man, and then they followed up with Thundercats, which He-Man was a great lead to Thundercats. It was a higher rated show at the time, but Thundercats in itself, monster. I actually have the collection here. I think they actually did 2 seasons, but these seasons for cartoons are different than seasons for a regular show. They're a lot longer, some of them.
I read a couple of years ago that when they were making Thundercats, they were so desperate for writers and ideas. They were kind of like asking anybody who came into the building, like even like custodians and stuff, if they had any ideas for episodes. It's kind of weird, but I love Thundercats. Thundercats is awesome. He-Man was my big thing, and so was Transformers. I'm still way into Transformers. So I've been reading the new Skybound comics. Those are awesome. Have you checked those out yet?
No, I started buying some when they came up with these compilations. I think it was IDW. I don't know if they bought the old Marvel series or something, but they came on these big ass books, and started reading about that. But then I kind of fell to the side. There was other things I was reading. Who owns the right to release these now? Is it IDW still, or did it go?
I think it's somebody else. I'm not sure, because there's a company, and it might be an Image sub company. I'm not sure. They're called Skybound, and they're doing Transformers and G.I. Joe, and it's called the Energon universe. I think they're getting ready to do issue number 20 of the Transformers here in the next week or so. But it's really good. It's awesome. And I like the IDW Transformers. It was good. Last End of the Rockers kind of made me feel like I needed to take a shower after I read it, but it's dark.
It is, and I think DC did kind of the same thing with Masters of the Universe. It started off kind of like, man, well, how depressing is this? But it kind of got better towards as it kept going. But I was amazed at how expensive they were to buy.
I know. and they just relaunched Spider-Man. The biggest, as you can see, I'm like the biggest Spider-Man nerd in the world. They just relaunched Amazing Spider-Man with #1. It's not like a hard reboot, but it's just it's like the 5th reboot they've done in the last 20 years or so. But it started off really good. The first issue is awesome, and so I'm looking forward to it. That's like the highlight of my month is like going every 2 weeks to get a Spider-Man. My wife actually goes and gets it for me while I'm at work. But every 2 weeks I get a new Spider-Man comic, and that's kind of like I get an endorphin rush basically because I'm like, oh my god, I get to read this, and I'm excited. So I have no life.
No. Well, not so fast. You say that, but as I'm reading down in my notes, we're gonna go over some of these things here in a second, because not only did you just release a book, but as a screenwriter, you're responsible for some pretty interesting material, my friend. When we first started chatting, it was on Let's Find Out last year.
Uh-huh.
I don't know if it was the beginning or towards the end. I think Raccoon and Crocodile were either about to be released or just been released.
It was right before Crackoon came out. Crackoon came out in October of 2024. And so I think it was almost about this time last year, actually, that you and I talked. So, and I'm not sure what's going on with Crocodile. I don't think it's going to happen. I think it's kind of been scrapped at the moment, but hopefully it'll reemerge someday.
And a lot of things usually do. It's kind of like me at first. I was talking about where I was writing this book, and it was the most terrifying experience I ever had in my life. And once I wrote it, it sat on my hard drive for about 2 months.
Yeah.
And then I got to bring this thing back to life. So it might be one of those things where it's going to pick up some steam down the road. But wasn't there supposed to be a third in that Crack
Yeah,
series?
there was going to be Crack Squatch, and I'm not sure what's going on with it. And I started off working on Cracula, and directors decided to go in another direction. So I had nothing to do with Cracula. I think it's coming out in the next couple of months. So, but I did do Crackoon. So, and it's a fun movie. I've actually what did I do with it? I've actually got a copy of it on DVD right here.
It's still shrink wrapped and everything. It looks good.
It is, yeah. And there's actually a special edition that's available, cheap plug, on Amazon right now. But I've just got the standard DVD. It's available on Blu-ray too.
Awesome. Now, how's the reviews been so far? Because I know that we have a friend in common who's also my agent. He saw it. He loved it.
That's cool. We've gotten a little bit of both. Like some people just completely take a shit on it, and some people love it just because it is so bad it's good kind of deal. You know what I mean? But I think some people just didn't really get it, and they were like, "This is horrible. It's awful." It's got like a 3.6, I think, on IMDb right now. But I know like the people that were into it, it's for a certain taste, obviously, and you know, if you're into that kind of movie, and you'll like it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but people are miserable, and they're just looking for somewhere an outlet because their lives is kind of shitty. So they're gonna
Yeah.
write bad reviews no matter what, and it's their right to do so. And maybe they didn't like it, but I think people just do that for sport, just to. I don't know why they do that kind of things, but I understand. I've gotten 1-star reviews, and it's okay. But I get better reviews than that Snow White movie that came out, so at least I have that.
Yeah, exactly. Poor old Snow White movie. What was
I
Disney?
know. I don't know. It's one of those things that perhaps it's kind of like they do a lot of these remakes, and I understand. I know we're getting way off topic here, and I'm not for or against the Snow White movie. It's what this it's not my thing. People can watch what they want to watch. But now that we're talking about or have talked or have made it with the remake, I say it's not remakes anymore. It's called a reboot, right? Because if you call it a remake, that's not what we say now, right?
Right. For the most part, it's getting confusing now. So
Yeah.
it,
So with Highlander,
uh-huh.
they're rebooting that one,
Oh, are they?
which should be with the guy from The Witcher, I believe, will be playing the lead
Huh.
role.
That's cool. And I don't know if you heard this. They're remaking, rebooting, whatever you want to call it, Silent Night, Deadly Night. And
Okay.
and possibly one of the dumbest moves ever. The guy playing Billy, the guy in the Santa suit, is Corey from Halloween Ends. And it's like, I think you're just trolling people at this point because most people hated Halloween Ends and hated Corey. I think it's just, we're going to troll the hell out of people right now. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you know what? Sometimes some might be well deserved. We don't know, but that's just part. It's just part of the game that we're in, my friend. And with so then now your new book, Carnivorous,
Hmm. And I've got a copy of it right here. Yay.
awesome, hot off the press. And so when during this time where you were writing these other movies, when did you start doing that, or where did you find the time in between, or afterward?
Actually, I actually started on it probably like about 10 years ago, and I kind of put it to the side. And I started writing it as a screenplay and never finished it. And then I went back in and probably about 2 years ago and finished it up, and I submitted it. And Gary Vincent, who was in Crackoon, he's got a publishing company called Burning Bulb, and he was interested in it. So that's who distributed it and everything. So I got to give a props to Gary for taking a chance on it and everything. So that's cool. Maybe one day I'll finish the screenplay. I started the screenplay and was like, I got other stuff to do. So I kind of put it to the side too. But it's funny because when I submitted it to him and he read it and he really dug it and he said he thought it would make a good movie too. So maybe one day you'll see it on the big screen as well. So
Oh, I have no doubt about it. And you kind of went into the reptilian part of this with, were you a fan? Well, let me go back because I get lost sometimes in my own stupid words. When it comes to certain mythologies, sometimes serpents or reptilians come to play. Did you get your influence from those stories, or is there something about, was it sci-fi? Like we grew up in the same times, and I brought this up many times and with other folks with the show V, where these reptilians were in human skin. Eventually, Donovan figures the whole thing out. Does this come kind of inspired by mythology and sci-fi?
it was definitely inspired by V because when I was writing it, that's how I kind of saw the creatures in my head and everything. It's cool that you got that. V definitely played a part in it. Um, it's also it's part that, and it's also like a big nod to Night of the Living Dead because the biggest majority of the book takes place with these two sisters. They're going to their deceased grandmother's house to kind of clean it up because they're going to sell it, and then all hell breaks loose, and these reptilian creatures attack the town and are eating everybody in sight. So they're kind of barricaded into the house and everything, and it's kind of a nod to that Night of the Living Dead with the whole we're barricaded in, and to me that's kind of a cozy feeling. I don't know why. I guess because I'm weird, but there's like a part in the book where they're like, "There's food down in the deep freeze that's been down there forever. We can eat it." And it's also a nod to Demons because I love the movie Demons. Oh man, it's one of my favorites because when the monsters scratch you, it does something. I don't want to give it away, but it has an effect when they scratch you, just like when the demons scratch somebody in the Demons movies. And there's a kind of a weird, not really a twist, but their origin. I don't want to say anything. I don't want to give it away. It's kind of linked to history in some ways. So it's funny when I started writing it. The name of the town that they're in is Conradville, and I sat down when I originally started writing it. There was a copy of Heart of Darkness on the floor that my sister had when she was in college, and I saw Joseph Conrad, and I'm like, "Ooh, I'm going to call this town Conradville." So it's kind of got a link to Heart of Darkness and Apocalypse Now. So
So it has a lot of elements of things that you're entertained by or inspired by.
exactly. So, and I think the main thing is you have like a group of people. Like I said, there's two sisters and a couple of survivors that show up, and the couple of people that were with the sisters, they're all trapped in this house, and there's these evil flesh-eating lizard people creatures outside trying to get in to eat them. And the opening chapter, it like talks about how the lizard people show up originally. They attack like a ball game, like a little league game, and they're eating the hell out of people. So it's got a cool opening where it's just utter chaos. They like attack a bar and are killing people, and then we go into meeting the main characters and everything. It's cool. I mean, if you're into like Return of the Living Dead, Night of the Living Dead, stuff like that, where people are trapped in a central location trying to survive, and there's stuff going on inside the house. We have like an asshole character, of course, that's inside the house that wants to do things his way. I mean, I think you'll like it. But yeah, definitely, a little bit of Return of the Living Dead in there too. So I love Return of the Living Dead, but with lizards instead of zombies.
Oh, and that's kind of cool. Different twist. We have a lot of zombie things going on right now, and I love anything zombie. I don't care what kind of movie it is or show. I'll watch it. I think they're
Yeah.
fun to watch, and it's also a good show or a good story when you start to get lost in a movie or a book. You start
Uh-huh.
thinking to yourself, "What would I do in that situation?"
I did that with Chud when I saw it as a kid. I loved Chud, and I remember it was like on a Sunday afternoon. We rented it on VHS. I think it was the summer between 6th and 7th grade. And I was so into that movie. I was like, I hope this movie never ends. And but I was thinking the same thing, especially that scene with John Goodman and Jay Thomas when they're in the diner at the end, which depending on what version you watch, it might be in the middle because there's it's a weird thing. But there are two cops at a diner, John Goodman and Jay Thomas, and the Chuds come in and start eating everybody. And I remember thinking, man, next time I'm at a McDonald's and this happens, I know exactly what I'm gonna do. But I'd probably be the first one to go if it actually happened.
No, man. At my age, a lot of these movie people run a lot. That ain't me, brother. I'll take a little bit of a jog if my hip don't give out, my lungs will. So I'll do my best.
Well, I remember after I saw Demons, my mom and dad took me to see Nightmare on Elm Street 3 probably about 3 weeks later.
Dream
And
Warriors.
yeah, heck yeah. And I was terrified that was going to happen. So I was like, where's the hell are the exits here in case people start turning into demons?
No, they had a good soundtrack. Dokken wrote the main song for that one.
Heck yeah.
Yeah, it was a good video, fun to watch.
Robert English shows up at the end. He's like, what a nightmare. And Freddy makeup and everything. So
Yeah, I think it was well done. I think a little bit missing now in current era, and it might be happening. I don't watch MTV or the shows anymore like the kids do, but
yeah.
in my time, they always had bands do a video or somehow got involved. So, for instance, Alice Cooper with Friday the
Man
13th
Behind
Part.
the Mask.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's a fun song. And then you had, I think, Armored Saint was in Hellraiser 2.
Yeah.
And then
Studio Echo did the one in Friday the 13th Part 5. But I love it. The video is awesome. You have to look it up sometime because the song is sweet. And it's from Friday the 13th Part 5, A New Beginning. The band's called Pseudo Echo, but I can't think of the name of the song off the top of my head. And they say it like a million times in the chorus and stuff. But
yeah, I see, not only with horror, I think like the best soundtrack ever for a movie. There's only two: Transformers the movie, and then the Rocky IV soundtrack. Now they both have something in common with Vince DiCola, with
exactly.
But going back to the Transformers soundtrack, you had Lion singing the main theme. You had it was King Cobra under a different name. Wrote a couple songs on there too. So there's always these little Easter eggs when it came to soundtracks for movies. And I had a whole bunch of other ones which I kind of forgot about because I got lost in the nostalgia. But going back to the whole thing about what would I do in a situation, the first movie that did that to me was Night of the Comet.
Oh yeah, Night of the Comet.
Yeah, that one got me, man. So I'm thinking, what the hell would I do?
Yeah. But in a way, when I saw it, I was like, it would be kind of cool because you could do whatever the hell you wanted and get all that good stuff. And
no, you're right there. Because then I was thinking, what would I do? I'll probably just be breaking into all the vending machines, stealing like Snickers bars and
yeah. Well, the time it came out, I was like, oh, that would be so awesome because I could go like to Toys R Us and just raid that place and get whatever I wanted. And as an adult, I look back and I'm like, it would probably, I mean, it would suck because what if I got a toothache or I needed to have surgery and there's no doctors? You know what I mean? But as a kid, I was like, that would be so awesome. I wouldn't have to go to school anymore. I could do whatever the hell I wanted. But
Yeah, yeah, things you don't think about. As an adult, you're like, yeah, what if I need a dentist, like you said? What if I break my leg? Things like
yeah,
that. But no, you're not supposed to take all these things very seriously now. But with Carnivorous now that's been released, it wasn't that long ago, was it?
it came out about a year ago, I believe, about 6 months, a year ago. I'm not sure the exact date that it came out. So, been up for a little bit.
For a little while. I asked because I don't remember. You didn't even mention this that you were doing it last time.
Yeah, it was one of those things where I kind of was like I was saying, I kind of put it to the side, and one day I got bored, and I was between scripts, and I was like, I'm gonna work on this some more. So I finished it up and did some editing on it, and talked to Gary Vincent about it, and he wanted to do it. So it was kind of a surprise to me, to be honest, that it was released and everything as quickly as it was. So
I mean, I'm reading the whole premise for it. It sounds awesome, man. I'm all about the
thanks.
reptilian and humanoids, and I'm all about monster movies. I love monster movies. That's my thing.
Yeah.
And now with people always ask what's next. And I know you're always working on something. What are you currently working on that you can tell us about?
Um. So I'm working on. I just finished two scripts over the summer. One of them's called the Sibylla Six, and it's being edited right now. I'm not sure when the release date is on that, but it's about this woman who's got a stalker, kind of like a suspense thriller meets slasher flick kind of thing. Matt Burns was part of it. A lot of people, Amanda Megan worked on it. Shannon Adkins. She actually directed it, so that should be coming soon. I need to check and see what the. I know they wrapped filming on it back in like December, uh, and I finished up a script Amanda Megan's directing called Black Sheep, and it's like a suspense horror film about this woman named Lucy who wants to be an actress, and she gets her big break, but it's not exactly what she thought it was going to be. I know they're in pre-production on that right now. They just started a GoFundMe or a Indiegogo page for it, like within the last month or so. And I'm also working on Redneck Zombies 2, actually, the sequel to the Trauma film that came out in 87, 88. And I'm almost done with that script. And Brad Twigg and I just, he got a gig where he's doing like an action flick that's kind of like a big nod to like the 80s action flicks, Chuck Norris, Charles Bronson. I just started writing it, so I'm working on like two scripts at the same time right now.
But so how do you do that? How do you flip from one to the other? Because you have two things going on at the same time. And
Yeah,
so how do you stay focused?
I've just got a hell of an imagination, and I do my best writing when I'm like taking a shower or I'm driving or I'm trying to go to sleep. I kind of play out scenes in my head, and then it makes it that much easier when I sit down to actually write. So that's, I've got, like I said, I've got a huge imagination, and I'm constantly, my wheels are turning, and no matter what I'm doing, I've actually got a day job too. Believe it or not, I'm actually a school counselor. I don't know if you knew that or not, but uh, I'm a middle school counselor, getting ready to get out for the summer. So I'm really going to be, doing a hell of a lot of writing this summer. But even at work, a lot of the times when I got downtime, I'm like writing out notes and ideas and things like that. So I think that I do my best writing. It's all in my head, and I kind of plot everything out, and then it's easy when I sit down to write to do it. I kind of take turns. Like one day I'll work on one script, and then the next day I'll work on the other. So I'm busy, but I'm a good kind of busy, if you know what I mean, because I love doing this. And it's funny. Sometime a couple of years ago, I can't think who said this. They were like, "Being a writer is like having homework every night for the rest of your life," but it's cool. I mean, there are times where I don't feel like I'm right. I want to write, and there's advice to writers: if you don't feel like you want to write, don't write, because people are going to be able to tell it. Because I force myself to write, and looked at it later and I'm like, oh God, this is complete garbage. So, but I like to write. It makes me feel better in general. I feel guilty when I don't write. So when I'm like playing, I just got a PlayStation 5 a couple of weeks ago. Finally, I know I'm behind, but but I like when I was playing it the other night, I was like, damn, I should be writing right now. It's, but I like to stay busy, and I love to write. I've always have, and heck yeah,
No, it's interesting because you say we all have normal jobs. Some of us are more blessed than others to not have that.
yeah,
But I have a whole bunch of sticky notepads at work. So, and I swear, my boss is going to be hearing this eventually. I do work 100%, but I always play something in the background if it's not a documentary or a podcast or something. Every once in a while, you get like something, a little bright idea. You write it down. Then I put it in my wallet,
yeah,
take it home, and then I get at least 2 or 3 episodes worth of material or whatever it is that I heard. And as far as the writing, it's a good advice. Like you said, don't force yourself to do it because people can tell. If you don't want to write, don't write. But what's the
yeah.
best way to snap out of that?
I think just to walk away from it for a little bit and just kind of let it. Myself personally, like I'll take a break, and I usually feel guilty, of course, but I think you have to have it up here first, and it's easier to you actually want to write when you have everything planned out in your head, and then when you sit down, you're excited to write. And I don't know if I've said this before, but I like to stop right in the middle of a scene. I think this was a Hemingway thing when it comes to novels. He would stop in like mid sentence and then walk away from it, and he was excited about sitting back down to finish out what he was writing. And I like to do that. Like I'll have like this big long scene and there's epic stuff happening, and I'll stop in the middle of it and come back the next day and finish it up because it makes you excited to want to sit down and finish it up. So that's my advice for writers.
Well, that's very interesting strategy there. I would have never thought about doing that. I'd be too afraid of losing my train of thought. I do that now on the show. I lose my train of thought, and I'm talking to you in real time. But it's different. You're very well seasoned in this type of work. So now, what you have the scripts, or you have the books that's out. If you were
Yeah.
going to write another book coming out, and
Uh-huh.
the idea will strike you like lightning will strike you, where do you
Uh-huh.
see what do you see yourself writing? Is there something that maybe you're thinking about delving in, you haven't touched it yet?
I want to do a really good werewolf one because I love werewolves, and tough thing with werewolves, it's kind of like zombies, and it's like, what can you do that hasn't already been done before, if you know what I mean? But I've kind of got like some wheels turning. I'm like, when I was in college, some friends and I were going to do a werewolf comic book. Me and my friend Don were writing it, and we had two guys, Cliff and Jason. They were the artists. It was called Chenko, which is like, I can't even think where the name came from, but it means wolf. And it's a superhero comic where this guy gets bitten by this wolf, and it was like almost like a Spawn kind of thing. But maybe one day I'll actually turn that into a novel, because I'd love to do something with it. It kind of sucks. We wrote like the first 20 issues, and it just never happened. And the local comic book store, the guy that owned it, actually one of the people, the artist, made a poster, and I've got it in my bedroom. Actually, it says "Coming in 1996," and it never happened. So I would kind of like to do something with that one day. It's just a different, a werewolf superhero. I know there's the astounding Wolfman that the guy that does Invincible did, but this is a little bit different. So that might be my next. And I actually prefer writing screenplays. I think I'm better at it. I'm not Stephen King. I love Stephen King, but I think I'm better with the dialogue and everything. I'm just more comfortable with the format of the screenplay. So maybe one day we'll see a good werewolf script for me based on the comic book we were going to do back in the 90s. If it's not a novel, I mean, I might do it as a novel. We'll have to wait and see.
Well, I'm sure you're going to have something coming out sooner than later. And it's been a good while, at least for me, that I've seen anything that's really good werewolf related. Two things popped into my mind: Silver Bullet and American
Hmm.
Werewolf in London. Two very well made, in my opinion, werewolf movies. And American Werewolf in London was something different. I saw that as a kid.
Yeah.
It did not.
See,
Yeah.
I love The Howling. The Howling is like my favorite. And they came out the same year that American Wolf in London did. But
What was
I
that?
love American Wolf in London too. But The Howling, between the two, I've got to go with The Howling.
Sure, and I understand. What was it, like 81, 82? It might be.
81, which was a
And
big year for horror. 81, like everything came out that year. So
no, the 80s killed it, but it wasn't as much as the werewolf for me because it didn't really make its real thing till later on.
yeah.
It was the whole thing. It was so sad for me.
Hmm.
Where when he went to the theaters and you see his best friend talking to him next to him, as each scene as it goes by, he's a little more decomposed than the next time.
Yeah.
It was just so sad.
See,
And
my
everybody
my
else that
wife,
he's killed in the theaters is there too.
yeah, and it's an awesome scene. My wife is like really depressed by the end of it, like with the nurse, the girl, the love interest. When spoiler alert, when our main character gets killed, she thinks that's just heartbreaking. And I feel the same way about Ginger Snaps. I think the ending of Ginger Snaps is I love that movie, and it's one of the better werewolf movies that have come out in the last 25 years or so. But the ending of it always like really brings me down. It's really depressing, but I wish werewolves would kind of get their time in the spotlight. Zombies did, and ghosts and possession things, but werewolves have always just kind of been like not really the flavor of the month, so to speak, if you know what I mean.
No, I think it just comes and goes. It is, well, if you really look at it, kind of like with vampires, the backstories and the folklore sometimes it get a little bit complicated. So you kind of have to really simplify it sometimes to make it more
Mhm.
entertaining.
Yeah, but I think one of the best werewolf movies I've seen in the last several years was Howl, but they're on a train. Have you seen that one?
I have not.
It's actually really good. It's product of England, and it's these people are on a train going somewhere and it breaks down and werewolves attack it. Kind of like the Carnivorous thing. They're trapped on the train trying to keep them out and stuff. It's really good. It's worth your time. I actually wouldn't mind if they made a sequel to it. I think it would rock. I'm kind of surprised they haven't because you could totally do a sequel to it and everything. But it's a fun movie. So check it out if you haven't seen it.
I wrote it down. I'm definitely gonna check that out. And now with I know that Carnivorous is available on Amazon. Is it available also through your publisher's website or directly
Uh,
from you? How does that work?
you can reach out to me at toddmartin101@gmail.com, and I'm happy to get your copy. But right now, the only place you can really purchase it is Amazon.com, which might be a good
And
thing. So it may be a collector's item one day. So if you want to buy a copy, let me know.
well, I think I think it will. It's just like with anything that you do, man. It's refreshing to see your style is very entertaining,
Oh, thank you.
and the fact that it's suitable for pretty much every age. It's not just ridiculously gory, you know.
Yeah, and I like my blood and guts as much as the next person, but I like Terrifier, but I think they try a little too hard. I'm going to get hate mail over that one, but I love blood and guts and gore, but I think it kind of has to have a point, if you know what I mean. uh, which I prefer the Hatchet movies over the Terrifier movie. I love the Hatchet movies. They're just good fun, gory, bloody, old school 80s kind of feel slasher movies. And unfortunately, it seems like, I don't know, nobody really says much about Hatchet anymore, if you know what I mean. It's kind of like it's gotten lost. And Adam Green is such an awesome guy. I talked to him, I interviewed him for Horror News about 10 years ago, and he was such a class act. He was just a great guy in general. Also, another writing secret I write, and this might sound arrogant, I don't want to come off like an asshole here. I write what I would want to read and see, if that makes sense. So
100%.
I try not to overcomplicate it, and some people might say, "Oh, he's a shitty writer," but I just write what I think I myself would enjoy. You know, so
I mean, it makes sense because who knows more about what you would like than you, and at
right,
the same time, you're not faking it. You're not trying to
yeah,
write for whatever somebody else you think they would like. Because I think you'll be able to tell in the book when it's kind of like, maybe he knows about it, the subject, maybe he does not.
yeah. And I
Getting
love
back,
Stephen King, but I think sometimes I'm like, man, you're trying way too hard to be. Don't really want to say an intellectual, but it's like you're getting too deep, and and I'm not taking a shot at Stephen King by any mean. I love the guy, but some of his stuff, just like his newer stuff, just does not appeal to me. I don't know, and I like to write, in a way that, especially in short stories and novels, that it's not overly complicated. I don't know if that means I'm an idiot that I don't write in an overcomplicated way, but I want it to be easier for readers to read, and like you just said, like a middle school kid could read Carnivorous and could understand it. So, but I just want it to be fun, I think, is my thing.
and you hit the magic word. As long as it's
Yeah,
fun. Same thing with the blood
yeah,
and guts and this and that. As long as you make it fun and it's not
uh-huh.
over the top. Just in my opinion, if it's too over the top, I think you kind of just it loses its luster in a
I
way.
think so too. That's the thing, man. When I was a kid, like there was nothing greater than going to the video store and getting horror films. Like I was saying with Chud earlier, when I was watching it, I was like, I never want this movie to end. It's awesome. And I haven't felt that way about a movie in a very long time. Um, so if I can bring some kind of joy to somebody who's like, man, this is so good. I hope this movie or this book never ends. I think I've accomplished what I've set out to do. So
Brother, you're doing a hell of a job. And
thank you.
Carnivorous is the book. I love the whole concept of reptilians. And for the next book with werewolves, and I know that Bonus Overdrive Wednesday doesn't really get too much into the supernatural or paranormal. That's on Let's Find Out. But
Yeah.
interestingly enough, with this whole concept with werewolves, and because I think in somewhere in Southern Virginia now, we're having sightings of either werewolves or dogmen. So that kind of thing is actually coming back. So don't think that it's the werewolves are out of style. It's sometimes just like Hatchet in some of these movies, things just
Yeah.
need to be rediscovered.
Exactly. I would love it if, let me rephrase that. I don't want, like with the zombie thing, I have no problem with zombie movies. I like them. I actually like the ones where they run because I love the remake of Dawn of the Dead. Um, I actually, and I'm going to get hate for this, I actually liked it better than the original. But I just don't want, if werewolves were to get popular, I don't want them to, like, everybody and their cousin is doing a werewolf movie, and you get some weird, crappy ones, and which has happened with the zombie thing. But I would love to see like a couple of actual really, because the howling scared the piss out of me when I was a kid. Um, I would love to see some really good, scary, actually scary. I'm laying awake at night thinking about it. Werewolf movies to hit the scene here soon. Other than Hal and Ginger Snaps, I think one of the last really good werewolf movies was Bad Moon. That came out in '96. That werewolf is fucking sweet looking. It's got Dennis the Menace in it from the Dennis the Menace movie that Nick Castle, Michael Myers, didn't know that until recently that Nick Castle directed Bad Moon, which is, or I'm sorry, directed Dennis the Menace. Hell yeah, that movie is awesome too. Bad Moon is. If you haven't seen it, I'm like giving you like my picks for werewolves movies here.
No, I was going to ask you some of your favorite ones, and you beat me to it, brother. So, and you might be the catalyst. You might be the that one that breathes lives back into werewolves, and it would just snowball from there. So, I
Hell yeah.
really appreciate you being on the show, and I know you got these scripts coming up, and they're eventually going to be made into these movies. Would you please come back to the show and let's talk about them? We'll talk more
Uh-huh.
horror movies, and I think we'll do something cool too. We're
Cool.
going to dig into some of the Masters of the Universe and Thundercats because I really
Uh-huh.
like the way that, and I like the originals and it's okay, but I really like the way that not the second wave of Masters of the Universe. It was the one where I believe it was through Cartoon Network in the early 2000s. That was pretty badass what they did there. Same thing with Thundercats. I think was it Bruce Timm that was involved in that project with Thundercats?
I think so. I remember. Oh man, well, yeah, 2002 is when they did the really good He-Man because it had a really awesome opening where,
Oh, it was explosive. Love it.
yeah, Adam's going to do the big intro from the original Funimation, and then he gets interrupted, and yeah, that was awesome. What's your feelings on the movie coming out, the live action Masters of the Universe? Have
And
you heard much about it?
I'm glad we're talking about that because they've tried for decades to get this movie done or a movie, and it seems like sometimes it either falls flat on its face and never gets done, or I don't know if it's funding or the interest.
Uh-huh.
I don't want to put high hopes on anything because I hate disappointing myself.
I know.
But I think it's due. And listen, not you, but anybody else. I think Dolph Lundgren did a great job,
I,
and
I,
for
I
its
agree.
time, it holds up very well.
It does, and Frank Langella is awesome as Skeletor.
Was
Uh,
he a badass in that movie or what? What a
oh
great
man,
actor!
I know, and he made it for me. Honestly, even as a kid, I was like, "Oh my god, this dude nailed Skeletor." That movie gets more shit than it deserves. I think it's not that bad, but I was reading the other day that it came along like kind of at the end of the He-Man popularity, and there was. It's just kind of funny if you look at the history of that movie because like the director had to fund most of it himself there towards the end because they ran out of money and shit. But I think it came a little too late to the party, kind of like Firehouse came a little too late to the hairband party. Uh, we had Molly Crew and all this great stuff in the 80s. And then at 91, 92, here's Firehouse. And they just didn't quite take off. But I think that's kind of the problem with the Masters of the Universe movie with Dolph Lundgren was interest in He-Man was kind of waning at that time. And they should have done it like a couple of years before. They should have done it right around the time they did Secret of the Sword because that movie is the fucking bomb. Do you remember it? The one with She-Ra?
I do. That's what they introduced Shira to. What is it? He has a twin sister
Yep.
living in oh gosh, was it Etheria? Because I forgot.
Um,
Eternia was for
the
He-Man's
He-Man.
joint. Yeah, that was his place, but I think it might have been Etheria. I'm probably 100% wrong into this, but
I,
that was a
I
good
can't.
movie.
Oh, that movie was the shit. I remember I saw the trailer for it one Sunday morning, and my sister, she's like about 4 years older than me, she was asleep, and I went running into her bedroom, and I was like, "They're making a He-Man cartoon movie! Holy shit!" And of course, she's like, "Shut the fuck up and leave me alone." But I was super excited about, and I was the Transformers movie. Oh my god, dude! My mom, God love her, she took me to see the Transformers movie the day before school started in seventh grade. It was somewhere between sixth and seventh grade, and we went to see a matinee. And my mom, God love her, she worries about things, so we got there like 3 hours early because she was worried it was going to sell out. And I was, she didn't give two handfuls of monkey shit about Transformers, but she took me to see it, and I'm sure she was miserable the whole time, but I loved it, and it's one of my favorite movies of all time. That opening scene freaked me the fuck out when I was a kid
I
with the unicorn.
I agree with you. One of my favorite movies ever. I don't
Yeah,
cartoon or live action
uh-huh.
because I
Yeah,
tell you, and this is me giving somebody. I'm opening myself up a little bit here. When I started watching the cartoons as a kid, I was a I love Decepticons.
yeah,
Megatron, the whole Megatron Starscream relationship they had in there was great.
uh-huh.
But once Optimus Prime died in the movie, and I know subsequently he came back 2 or 3 times, and
Right.
the whole thing with Rodimus Prime didn't want to be a leader anymore. He was a mess, Rodimus Prime.
The Hot
Um,
Rod was a shit until he became
yeah,
Rodimus.
yeah. And when they killed him off, and you saw him turn gray in that table, I was like, I became an Autobot fan from that. I don't know why I felt bad. I didn't care that Megatron killed everybody on that ship when they were escaping the moon base, or
I
but once I
was I
saw
was
Optimus go, man, that broke my heart.
I was upset about Braun because I like Braun, and he's like the first one that gets killed. And I remember thinking, man, this shit is serious. I'm like 12 years old at the time, and when Braun gets killed, and then he kills Ironhide and Ratchet and Prowl, which Prowl gets a fucked up death, but I was like, man, they're playing for real here, you know. So I was upset when Starscream got killed because I was like, I love I like Megatron a lot, and I love Starscream. So there were kids in the audience behind us. I remember there was a kid that had to take him out. He was crying so hard when Optimus died, and
Oh, you must have been the same theater I was. No, I'm sorry.
But and I liked Rodimus Prime, and like I said, until he became I'm sorry, I liked Hot Rod until he became Rodimus, and he was kind of a butt munch. But but it's such a good movie. I watched it not too long ago, and it still holds up so well.
Oh, I own it, man. I haven't watched it in a long time. It's way overdue. And before I go, let me because I also own the 2000s version of Masters of the Universe.
Awesome.
If you ever find it, buy it. The whole concept of the reptilians with Cobra Khan and those who were living underground for a while and came back.
The Snake Men.
Yes.
King yeah.
Yes. And they really caused an awful lot of problems, mostly for Skeletor. And but it's great. It gives you a whole backstory on Skeletor and the Snake Men. And I mean, I can't recommend it enough.
Cool. I saw like a lot of the episodes, but not every single one. I liked that they gave Skeletor like a definite backstory that, you know, he got the acid thrown in his face and shit. But yeah, I liked it when I saw it. So
yeah, very well written. We'll do a whole show on that, man. Let's bring you back. We'll talk about that, Transformers, and Thundercats as well. And one more time, my friend, how can we get our very own copy of Carnivorous?
Okay, so you can go right now. You can either email me. I'm happy to get you a copy at toddmartin101@gmail.com, or you can go to amazon.com. And that's really the only two places that is available right now. Go out and it's almost Easter. Go out and buy a couple of copies. It's a good Easter present for Grandma.
Absolutely, my friend. Thanks you again for being on Bonus Overdrive Wednesday, and I'll see you later this year.
Okay, thanks, bud. I'm more than happy to come back. I always have a great time.
Thank you, my friend.
All content on this broadcast is a property of Diego the Podcaster and is served directly from our servers with no modification, redirects, or rehosting. All celebrity impersonators are paid performers. The impersonated celebrities do not endorse or promote any views or opinions expressed by our guests, Diego the Podcaster, or Bonus Overdrive Wednesday. The information shared on Bonus Overdrive Wednesday is provided on an as-is basis, with no guarantees of completeness, accuracy, usefulness, or timeliness.